The emergency lights bathed the council chamber in red. Ambassador Thelris watched the holographic display with growing despair. Another colony had gone dark. That made 7 in the past month. "They're getting faster," said Councillor Merval, her crystalline hands trembling. The Krell consumed the entire population of Valara 3 in just 2 days. Thelris knew what that meant. 3 million souls. Gone. Converted into more of those horrible creatures. The Krell didn't just kill, they transformed their victims into soldiers for their endless swarm. The Vellani Republic had existed for 6,000 years. In all that time, they had never faced real war. Their military existed to stop pirates and settle disputes. They had peacekeepers, not warriors. When the Krell appeared at their borders 3 months ago, the Vellani thought they could negotiate. The Krell didn't negotiate. They consumed. "We need help," Thelris said quietly. "We've lost half our fleet. Our colonies are falling one by one. We cannot win this alone." "Who would help us?" Merval asked. "The Torgan Confederation refused our request. The Silicate Empire closed their borders. No one wants to face the Krell. Everyone is afraid the swarm will turn on them next." Thelris pulled up the galactic database. Thousands of civilizations. Surely someone would answer. His people were dying. Their beautiful worlds were being stripped of all life. In another month, maybe 2, the Krell would reach the home world. Then it would be over. "Send the message to everyone," Thelris said. "Every species in known space. Someone must help us." The message went out that night. A desperate plea transmitted across the galaxy. Most species ignored it. Some sent messages of sympathy but offered no aid. 3 days passed with no real response. Then a message arrived from an unknown source. "This is Captain Hana Choi, of the United Nations starship Indomitable. We received your distress call. Earth accepts your request for military aid. Our fleet will arrive at your coordinates in 6 days." Thelris had never heard of Earth. He searched the database. What he found made his blood run cold. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating in the galactic catalog. The database description read like a horror story. Deadly predators, extreme weather, toxic plant life, diseases that killed in hours. The planet had suffered 5 mass extinction events, and life kept surviving. The species that evolved there called themselves humans. Bipedal omnivores, pursuit predators with enhanced endurance, forward-facing eyes like hunters. They showed stress through exposing their teeth. Their planet had tried to kill them for millions of years, and they had won. "Are you certain about this?" Merval asked when Thelris showed her the information. "These humans sound dangerous." "The Krell are dangerous," Thelris replied. "Maybe we need dangerous to fight dangerous." 6 days later, the human fleet arrived. Thelris stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, watching the ships emerge from faster-than-light travel. His breath caught in his throat. The Vellani ships were smooth and elegant, designed for beauty as much as function. The human vessels looked like weapons given form. Dark metal covered in armor plating. Gun turrets bristled from every surface. They looked ready for war. "How many ships did they bring?" Merval whispered beside him. 30 warships, said the station commander, plus support vessels. Their flagship is twice the size of our largest battlecruiser." A small shuttle detached from the flagship and approached the station. Thelris felt his heart's beating faster. He was about to meet the Deathworlders. The airlock opened. Captain Hana Choi stepped through first. She was shorter than Thelris expected, but there was something in the way she moved that made him nervous, confident, controlled. Like a predator that knew exactly how dangerous it was. She wore a dark blue uniform with various symbols on it. Her black hair was pulled back tightly. When she saw the Vellani delegation, she smiled. Thelris had read that humans smiled to show friendliness, but seeing those white teeth made his survival instincts scream. Predator teeth. Teeth for tearing meat. "Ambassador Thelris," Hana said, extending her hand. "Thank you for requesting our help." Thelris reached out carefully and touched her hand. The human custom of handshaking felt strange. Her grip was firm, strong. He could feel the solid muscle beneath her skin. "Thank you for coming, Captain Choi," Thelris said. We are desperate. The Krell are destroying everything. We've reviewed the data you sent, Hana replied. The Krell are a problem, but problems can be solved. Let's go to your war room. We need to plan. In the briefing chamber, Hana's officers spread out tactical displays. Thelris introduced his own military commanders. The contrast was striking. The Vellani officers looked exhausted and defeated. The humans looked eager, almost excited. The Krell use swarm tactics, explained Commander Rilton of the Vellani Defense Fleet. They overwhelm us with numbers. For every one we destroy, 5 more appear. We cannot match their production rate. Then we don't fight their numbers, said Colonel Taeyang Park, a tall human with sharp eyes. We cut off the head. Where are they producing these soldiers? The motherships, Rilton said. But they're protected by thousands of Krell fighters. We lost 3 battle groups trying to reach them. Because you're thinking defensively, Taeyang said. You're trying to minimize casualties. Sometimes you need to accept losses to win. The Vellani officers looked shocked. Accept losses? The idea was horrifying. Hana pulled up a star map. The Krell have a fleet staging near the 4th planet in your outer system. They're preparing for another attack on your colonies. We'll hit them first, hard and fast. That's suicide, Rilton protested. They outnumber us 3-1. They outnumber you 3-1, Hana corrected with that predator smile. They've never fought humans before. We have some advantages. What advantages? Thelris asked. We're from a death world, Hana said simply. We've been at war with something since our species learned to walk. Our planet. Each other. We've fought wars with weapons that could destroy our entire world. We've survived things that would extinct most species. The Krell are just another enemy. She tapped the display. We attack in 12 hours. You called for help, Ambassador. The Deathworlders are here to answer. Let's show the Krell what happens when they threaten our friends. Thelris watched the humans plan their assault. They spoke casually about tactics that would result in deaths. They laughed while discussing battle strategies. He realized something terrifying. The Vellani had begged for saviors. Instead, they had summoned monsters who fought other monsters. He could only hope they had made the right choice. The galaxy was about to learn why you didn't threaten anyone under human protection. The human fleet moved through space like a pack of predators. Thelris watched from the observation deck of the UNS Indomitable. Captain Hana had invited him to witness the battle. Now he wondered if that was a blessing or a curse. Krell fleet detected, announced Lieutenant Ji-Ho Kwan from the pilot station. Count is approximately 140 vessels. They've spotted us and are moving to intercept. Good, Hana said calmly. Let them come to us. Weapons free when they enter range. All fighters launch. Thelris watched as dozens of small human fighters poured from the warships. They flew in tight formations, moving with precision that seemed impossible. The pilots were pulling maneuvers that would kill most species from the acceleration alone. Captain, Thelris said nervously, the Krell outnumber us nearly 5-1. We know, Hana replied without concern. Don't worry, Ambassador. We've fought worse odds. A human sitting at a nearby console looked up. She had kind eyes, but something about her stillness reminded Thelris of a waiting predator. I'm Yuna Shin, xenobiologist. I've been studying the Krell data you provided. Fascinating species, really. A hive mind with distributed intelligence. Each drone is fairly simple, but together they form a collective consciousness. They're monsters, Thelris said. They're efficient, Yuna corrected. But efficiency has weaknesses. They can't adapt quickly to new tactics. They rely on overwhelming force because it always worked before. That's about to change. The Krell ships closed the distance. They didn't fly in formations like the humans. They swarmed, chaotic and numerous like insects. Their vessels were biological, grown rather than built. They looked diseased. Enemy in range, Ji-Ho reported. They're launching fighters. All batteries open fire, Hana commanded. The human warships erupted with weapons fire. Railguns launched metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missiles streaked across the void. Laser batteries burned through the darkness. The Krell swarm scattered under the assault, but they kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 3 more pushed forward. They're targeting the Indomitable, the tactical officer called out. 70 ships inbound. Evasive maneuvers, Hana said. Launch countermeasures, and someone get those fighters off our hull. The massive ship moved with surprising grace. Thelris grabbed a support rail as the artificial gravity struggled to compensate. Outside the viewports, space became a maze of fire and destruction. Krell ships exploded in bursts of green flame. Human vessels took hits but kept fighting. Lieutenant Jiho's fighter squadron screamed past the viewport. They dove into the thickest part of the Krell swarm. Thelris held his breath, certain they would be overwhelmed. But the human pilots flew like they were dancing. They rolled, spun, and weaved through enemy fire. Their weapons carved through Krell ships with brutal efficiency. "Jiho's pretty good, isn't he?" said a human standing next to Thelris. The man smiled with obvious pride. "Best pilot in the fleet. Volunteered for this mission the moment he heard people needed help." "He's going to die out there," Thelris whispered. "Maybe," the human said. "But not today. Watch." Jiho's fighter pulled a maneuver that seemed to violate physics. He spun his ship completely around while still moving forward, firing at enemies behind him. 3 Krell fighters exploded. Then he accelerated straight up, leading a dozen enemy ships away from a damaged human cruiser. "All ships, focus fire on the Krell mothership," Hana ordered. "Target their primary reactor." "Yuna, you said that's their vulnerable point?" "Correct," Yuna confirmed. "Take out the mothership and the surrounding drones will lose coordination. They'll be vulnerable for approximately 30 seconds before the backup systems engage." 30 seconds, Colonel Taeyang said from the tactical station. "That's enough. All ships, prepare for concentrated assault on my mark." The human fleet changed formation with military precision. They created a spearhead formation with the Indomitable at the tip. They drove straight toward the largest Krell ship, ignoring the smaller vessels attacking their flanks. "We're taking heavy damage," reported the engineering officer. "Shields at 40%. "Keep going," Hana said. "We only need one shot." Thelris watched the tactical display in horror. The humans were sacrificing their outer ships to protect the ones in the center. They were deliberately taking damage. Ships were reporting casualties. People were dying. But the fleet didn't break formation. "In range," Taeyang announced. "All ships, fire." Every human warship fired at once. The combined firepower was incredible. Thelris had never seen such destructive force. The Krell mothership's shields collapsed. The biological armor burned away. Then the reactor detonated. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. The mothership came apart in a bloom of green fire. The shockwave destroyed 20 smaller Krell vessels. And just as Yuna predicted, the remaining Krell ships froze. For 30 seconds, they drifted without purpose. "All ships, rapid fire," Hana commanded. "Take them out." The human fleet didn't hesitate. They poured fire into the helpless Krell ships. It was slaughter. Within 2 minutes, the Krell force was destroyed. Only debris remained where a fleet had been. "Cease fire," Hana ordered. "Damage report." 7 ships with major damage, the tactical officer reported. 16 casualties across the fleet. 83 wounded. 16 dead. Thelris felt sick. The humans had just won a major victory, but people had died. How could they be so calm about it? "Could have been worse," Taeyong said. "Good work, everyone. Jiho, get your fighters back to the barn. We'll move to the rally point and make repairs." The bridge crew relaxed. Some of them even smiled. They had just been in a fight for their lives, and they were smiling. Hana turned to Thelris. "That was the easy part, Ambassador. The Krell will respond with heavier forces now, but we've proven something important. They can be beaten." "Your people died," Thelris said quietly. 16 humans are dead." "Yes," Hana said. Her smile faded. 16 people who volunteered for this mission. They knew the risks. They came anyway because your people asked for help. That's what humans do, Ambassador. We answer the call." Yuna approached them, carrying a data tablet. "Captain, I've been analyzing the Krell biology. They're more vulnerable than we thought. Their hive mind relies on chemical signals transmitted through their organic ships. If we can disrupt those signals, we might be able to collapse entire fleets without firing a shot." "Can you develop a weapon?" Hana asked. "Given time, yes, but I'll need samples." fresh samples from living Krell. We'll get you samples, Colonel Taeyang said. We're planning a ground assault on the Krell-occupied colony in the Bellin system. Plenty of opportunities to collect specimens there. Thelris felt his blood run cold. A ground assault? On a Krell-held world? That's impossible. They'll overwhelm any landing force. We're not any landing force, Taeyang said, with that predator smile. We're human marines. We specialize in impossible. Jiho entered the bridge, pulling off his flight helmet. He looked exhausted but exhilarated. Captain, the squadron is ready for the next mission. When do we deploy? 48 hours, Hana said. Get some rest, Lieutenant. The real fighting is about to begin. As the human fleet regrouped and prepared for the ground assault, Thelris returned to his quarters. He recorded a message to the Villani Council. The humans won their first battle against the Krell, he said slowly. But I'm not sure if we made the right choice. These Deathworlders are effective, yes, but they're also frightening. They accept casualties without hesitation. They smile while planning attacks. They volunteer to die for strangers. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I think we've called monsters to fight monsters. I can only pray that when the Krell are defeated, these humans remain our friends. Because I don't want to imagine them as our enemies. Outside his viewport, the human warships moved through space. Silent, deadly, ready for the next battle. The galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous thing in space wasn't the Krell swarm. It was a human who decided to help. The drop pods fell through the atmosphere like meteors. Inside one of them, Colonel Taeyang Park checked his weapons one last time. The descent was violent, shaking hard enough to rattle his teeth. Most species would be terrified. Humans had learned to call this kind of terror excitement. 30 seconds to impact, announced the pod's computer. Taeyang activated his squad channel. Remember the plan. We hit fast and hard. The Krell are expecting a conventional landing. Let's show them why that was a mistake. Around him, 200 drop pods screamed toward the surface of Bellin 4. The Krell had taken this colony 3 weeks ago. 10 million Villani had lived here. Now it was a Krell breeding ground. The aliens were converting the colony infrastructure into hive structures, growing more soldiers to fuel their endless war. The humans were about to burn it all down. The pod hit the ground with tremendous force. The impact would have killed most species. Humans had built their armor to absorb it. The pod door exploded outward, and Taeyang charged into hell. The landscape was nightmare fuel. The beautiful Villani city had been transformed into something organic and wrong. Walls of hardened resin covered the buildings. Spore towers grew from the streets. Everything pulsed with sick green light. The air smelled of rot and chemicals, and the Krell were everywhere. They came swarming from the structures, screeching their alien war cries. Each one was the size of a human, covered in chitinous armor, with 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. They moved on 6 legs, fast and agile. Their faces were masses of compound eyes and snapping mandibles. They had once been Villani civilians. Now they were weapons. "Contact!" someone shouted on the squad channel. The human marines opened fire. The sound was deafening. Gunfire filled the air as hundreds of weapons discharged at once. The Krell charged into the hail of bullets. Some fell immediately. Others kept coming even with multiple wounds. But the humans didn't break formation. They kept firing with mechanical efficiency. Taeyang shot a Krell that got too close. 3 rounds to the central mass. It fell and didn't get up. Around him, his marines formed a defensive perimeter. More Krell poured from the buildings. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. "Flamethrowers, light them up!" Taeyang ordered. Marines with specialized weapons stepped forward. Jets of burning fuel sprayed across the alien horde. The Krell screeched as fire consumed them. The smell of burning chitin filled the air. It was horrible, but it was effective. The Krell advance faltered. "Push forward," Taeyang commanded. "We need to reach the primary hive structure. Minho, clear us a path." Combat engineer Minho Zhang grinned inside his helmet. This was what he lived for. He moved to the front of the formation, carrying enough explosives to level a building, which was exactly his plan. A spore tower stood in their path, pumping toxic clouds into the air. Human filters protected the Marines from the poison, but the tower would complicate their advance. Minho placed shaped charges at its base. "Fire in the hole!" he shouted cheerfully. The explosion collapsed the tower. The structure fell across the street, crushing dozens of Krell beneath it. Minho laughed. "That's what I'm talking about. Next!" Above them, Lieutenant Jiho's fighters screamed past, firing missiles at Krell positions. The explosions shook the ground. Buildings collapsed. The Krell scattered under the aerial assault, giving the Marines room to advance. "Good shooting, Jiho," Taeyang said over the command channel. "Keep them off our backs." "Roger that, Colonel," Jiho replied. "I've got your 6. These bugs are fast, but they can't outrun a missile." The Marines pushed deeper into the corrupted city. The fighting was brutal and close. The Krell didn't fear death. They threw themselves at the human lines with suicidal determination. But humans had learned to fight without fear long ago. They met the alien charge with bullets, fire, and cold determination. Medic Sora Han worked frantically behind the lines. A Marine had taken a Krell claw to the shoulder. The wound was deep, bleeding heavily. Sora applied emergency sealant and injected combat drugs. "You're going to be fine," she said firmly. "The armor stopped the worst of it. You'll have a scar, but you'll live." "Thanks, Doc," the Marine gasped. "That thing hit hard." "They're designed to kill," Sora replied. "But so are we. Stay down for 5 minutes, then rejoin your squad." A Villani observer named Kurlin watched the battle from a command shuttle overhead. She had volunteered to accompany the human assault as a cultural liaison. Now she understood what Captain Hana had meant about humans accepting casualties. The Marines were wounded. They were dying. But they didn't retreat. They didn't panic. They kept fighting with terrible efficiency. One Marine took a hit that should have been fatal. His armor was breached. He was losing blood. But he kept shooting until his squad pulled him back for treatment. "Why don't they run?" Kurlin whispered to the shuttle pilot. "They're being slaughtered." "No, they're not," the pilot corrected. "Watch the tactical display. We're winning." Kurlin looked at the display. The pilot was right. Despite the casualties, the human advance hadn't stopped. They were systematically destroying every Krell position. The aliens outnumbered them, but the humans were better organized, better armed, and apparently incapable of fear. On the ground, Taeyang's force reached the primary hive structure. It was massive, a twisted tower of organic material that reached toward the sky. Inside would be a Krell Queen, the source of all the drones on this world. "Yuna, you reading this?" Taeyang asked. The xenobiologist's voice came through the command channel. "I'm seeing it on the tactical feed. That's definitely a breeding structure. The queen will be at the center, heavily defended. You'll need to fight through hundreds of drones to reach her." "That's fine," Taeyang said. "We brought enough ammunition." The Marines breached the hive entrance. Inside was a nightmare. The walls were made of living tissue. Strange organs pulsed in the dim light. Krell drones crawled on every surface. They hissed and screeched at the intruders. The humans responded with fire. The battle inside the hive was chaos. The corridors were tight, forcing close combat. The Krell had the advantage of numbers and home terrain, but humans had been fighting in close quarters since they lived in caves. They used grenades to clear rooms, flamethrowers to burn out nests. They advanced step by bloody step toward the center. Taeyang's armor took multiple hits. The Krell were learning to target weak points. But human armor was designed by people who had been trying to kill each other for thousands of years. It held. He fired his weapon until the magazine was empty, reloaded, and kept firing. They reached the Queen's chamber. She was enormous, 3 times the size of a normal Krell. Her body was swollen with eggs. Dozens of drones surrounded her, the last line of defense. "Take them out," Taeyang ordered. The Marines opened fire. The drones fell. The Queen screeched in rage and fear. She tried to flee, but there was nowhere to go. Taeyang stepped forward and placed a charge on her central mass. "Clear the structure," he shouted. 30 seconds. The Marines ran. Behind them, the charge detonated. The Queen died. And without her, the hive began to collapse. The remaining Krell drones froze, their connection to the hive mind severed. They stood motionless as the humans escaped the dying structure. Outside, the Krell forces were in chaos. Without the Queen's coordination, they were just individual creatures. The Marines eliminated them methodically. Within an hour, the colony was secured. Taiyang stood on a rooftop and surveyed the battlefield. Fires burned across the ruined city. Bodies littered the streets, both Krell and human. They had lost 23 Marines. 70 more were wounded, but they had won. Colony secured, he reported to Captain Hana. Bellin the 4 is clear. The Krell are eliminated. Good work, Colonel, Hana responded. Return to orbit. We have 15 more colonies to liberate, and the Krell know we're coming now. The next one will be harder. Taiyang smiled grimly. Good. We were worried this would be too easy. As the Marines evacuated, Kurlin spoke to Sora Han in the medical bay. How do you do it? The Villani asked. How do you keep fighting when you see so much death? Sora looked up from bandaging a wounded Marine. Because if we don't fight, more people die. The Krell aren't going to stop on their own. Someone has to stand up to them. And humans learned a long time ago that if you want peace, sometimes you have to fight for it. But the cost, Kurlin said softly, is high, Sora agreed, but worth it. Look around. We saved this colony. Yes, we lost people. But 10 million Villani are avenged. The Krell can't hurt anyone here anymore. That's worth the cost. The human fleet moved to the next target. Behind them, Belen 4 burned. But it was free. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. They had answered the call, and they were winning. The human fleet had liberated 12 colonies in 3 weeks. Each victory came with a cost. The casualty reports grew longer. Captain Hana Choi read them in her quarters every night. She memorized every name. It was the least she could do for people who had died under her command. Ambassador Thelris found her there, staring at the list of the dead on her datapad. Captain, I didn't mean to intrude. You're not, Hana said, setting the datapad aside. What can I do for you, Ambassador? I wanted to ask you something, Thelris said carefully. The Villani counselors are amazed by your victories. But they're also disturbed by how your people handle death. You lose soldiers in every battle, yet your fleet continues without hesitation. How can you be so calm about it? Hana was quiet for a moment. We're not calm, Ambassador. We're terrified, every single one of us. But fear doesn't help anyone, so we push it down and do what needs to be done. But why? Thelris pressed. Why risk yourselves for strangers? You could have ignored our message. The Krell aren't a threat to Earth. Not yet, Hana corrected. But they would be eventually. And even if they weren't, you asked for help. That matters to us. Humans have a long history of leaving people behind when things got hard. It's one of our greatest shames. We've learned that the only way to live with ourselves is to be better. To answer when someone calls for help. She stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, the stars streamed past as the fleet traveled at faster-than-light speed. We're heading to your homeworld now. Our intelligence says the Krell are gathering their largest fleet there. They're going to attack in force. How many ships? Thelris asked. At least 500. Maybe more. We'll be outnumbered 10-1. Thelris felt his heart sink. That's impossible odds. Probably, Hana agreed. But we're going anyway. Because that's what humans do. On the bridge, Yuna was presenting her findings to the senior officers. I've analyzed samples from every colony we've liberated. The Krell hive mind is more complex than we thought. Each queen controls her local swarm, but they're all connected to a central intelligence. A super queen, if you will. Colonel Taiyang studied the data. Where is this super queen? The Krell mothership, Yuna replied. It's mobile, heavily defended, and the source of coordination for the entire Krell invasion force. If we can kill the super queen, the entire Krell network will collapse. Every swarm across Villani space will lose cohesion. That's our target then, Hana decided. How do we reach her? Yuna's expression turned grim. That's the problem. The Super Queen is at the center of the mothership, protected by layers of biological armor and thousands of drones. Our weapons can't penetrate deep enough from the outside. Someone would need to infiltrate the ship and deploy a weapon directly. A suicide mission, Taeyang said quietly. Yes, Yuna confirmed. The weapon I've developed uses a frequency disruption that will collapse the hive mind network, but it has to be deployed at the source. Whoever goes in won't be coming back out. The bridge fell silent. Hana looked around at her officers. These people had followed her across the galaxy to help strangers. They had fought impossible battles and never complained. Now she was asking one of them to die. We'll need volunteers, she said finally. I'll go, Lieutenant Jiho said immediately. No, Hana replied. You're our best pilot. We need you flying cover for the assault. Then I'll go, Taeyang offered. The Marines need you, Hana countered. You're the only one who can coordinate a ground assault on that scale. A quiet voice spoke up. I'll do it. Everyone turned. Communications officer Ari Lee stood at her station, her expression calm and determined. She was young, barely 25. She had joined the mission because she wanted to see the stars and help people. Ari, you don't have to, Hana began. Yes, I do, Ari interrupted gently. I'm a communications specialist. I can infiltrate their network, understand their signal patterns, and place the weapon precisely where it needs to go. I'm the most qualified person for this mission. You'll die, Hana said bluntly. I know, Ari replied. But how many Villani will die if we don't stop the Krell? How many humans will we lose fighting conventionally? This is the best option. Maybe the only option. Hana wanted to argue, but Ari was right. She was the best choice for the mission, and they were running out of time. All right, Hana said, her voice tight. We'll do it. Ari, work with Yuna to prepare the weapon. The rest of you, start planning the assault. We'll give Ari the best possible chance to succeed. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near the Villani homeworld. What they found was worse than expected. The Krell had assembled a massive fleet. Over 600 ships filled the space around the planet. At the center was the mothership, a biological horror the size of a small moon. They're moving to intercept, reported the tactical officer. All Krell vessels are converging on our position. All ships, battle formation, Hana commanded. Jiho, get your fighters in the air. Taeyang, prepare for boarding action. We need to create an opening for Eri. The battle began. The human fleet was outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with desperate fury. Ships exploded on both sides. The void filled with fire and debris. The humans focused all their efforts on reaching the mothership. Shields failing, someone called out. Multiple hull breaches. Casualties reported on decks 7 and 9. Keep going, Hana ordered. All power to forward shields. Ram through if you have to. The Indomitable pushed through the Krell swarm like a battering ram. Smaller ships protected her flanks, taking hits meant for the flagship. Jiho's fighters screamed through the chaos, drawing enemy fire away from the capital ships. Every human vessel fought with everything they had. We're in position, Hana announced. Ari, you're cleared for launch. Ari climbed into a small infiltration craft. It was designed to look like debris, to slip through enemy defenses unnoticed. She carried Yuna's weapon in a backpack. It was surprisingly small for something that would save billions of lives. Good luck, Yuna said quietly. Thank you, Ari replied, for everything. Tell my family I love them, and that I'm sorry I won't be coming home. She launched before anyone could respond. The little craft drifted toward the mothership, tumbling like wreckage. The Krell sensors ignored it. They were focused on the human fleet. They didn't see the real threat slipping through their defenses. Ares' craft latched onto the mothership's hull. She used a cutting torch to breach the organic armor. Inside was darkness and the smell of rot. She activated her helmet lights and descended into hell. The corridors were organic tunnels pulsing with alien life. Krell drones crawled on every surface. Ari moved slowly, carefully, trying not to attract attention. When drones came too close, she hid in the shadows and held her breath. It took hours to reach the central chamber. Her suit reported increasing levels of toxic chemicals. The air was poison, but she kept moving, one step at a time, one corridor at a time. Finally, she reached the chamber. The Super Queen was enormous, filling the entire space. Her body was covered in biological technology, managing the hive mind network. Thousands of drones surrounded her. Ari pulled out the weapon. Her hands shook. She was so scared. But she thought about the Villani families dying on the planet below. She thought about her crewmates fighting and dying in space above her. She thought about all the people who would die if she failed. She armed the weapon. The drones noticed her. They screeched and charged. Ari placed the weapon at the base of the Super Queen's neural cluster. The timer started. 10 seconds. The drones reached her. Claws tore through her suit. Pain exploded through her body. But she had done it. The weapon was armed. Nothing could stop it now. Mission complete, she whispered into her communicator. Weapon deployed. It was an honor serving with you all. The weapon detonated. The frequency pulse ripped through the hive mind network. The Super Queen's consciousness shattered. The signal propagated through every Krell vessel, every drone, every queen across Villani space. Outside, the Krell fleet froze. Every ship went dead in space. The drones stopped moving. The attack ended as suddenly as it had begun. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Hana watched the tactical display in silence. Tears ran down her face. Around her, the crew stood at attention. For Eri. For all the humans who had died to save a species they barely knew. She did it, Yuna said softly. The hive mind is collapsed. The Krell are finished. All ships, cease fire, Hana ordered. Begin recovery operations. And someone contact the Villani government. Tell them they're safe now. The battle was over. The war was won. But the cost would stay with them forever. The silence was strange. For weeks, space around the Villani homeworld had echoed with weapons fire and dying screams. Now there was only quiet. The Krell ships drifted like dead things, their biological systems shut down. Without the hive mind, they were just empty shells. Colonel Taeyang Park, now promoted to general, stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched cleanup crews working through the debris field. Human and Villani ships moved side by side, recovering bodies and salvaging what could be saved. Final casualty count is in, said the tactical officer. 2,347 humans killed in action. Another 800 wounded seriously enough to require evacuation back to Earth. Taeyang closed his eyes. Over 2,000 dead. 2,000 volunteers who had come to help strangers and would never go home. Captain Hana Choi's name was on that list. She had stayed on the bridge during the final battle, coordinating the fleet even as the Indomitable took critical damage. She had died doing her duty. How many ships did we lose? Taeyang asked. 14 destroyed completely. Another 23 too damaged to repair. The Indomitable can make it back to Earth, but she'll need months in dry dock. And the Krell? All confirmed dead or disabled across Villani space. Yuna's weapon worked perfectly. The hive mind collapse was total. We found no signs of Krell activity on any of the liberated worlds. Taeyang nodded. They had won. The victory felt hollow with so many empty chairs at the dinner table. Ambassador Thelris entered the bridge. The Villani looked exhausted but relieved. General Park, the Villani High Council has requested your presence on the homeworld. They wish to hold a memorial ceremony for the fallen humans. A memorial? Taeyang repeated. Yes, the very least we can do to honor those who died for us. Please, General. Let us show our gratitude properly. 3 days later, Taeyang stood on a platform in the Villani capital city. 500,000 Villani filled the plaza below. Every human who could walk attended. The wounded came in medical chairs. Those who could barely stand leaned on their comrades. No one stayed behind. The memorial was simple. A wall of white stone with every human name carved into it. 2,347 names. Taeyang found Hana's name near the top. Captain Hana Choi, age 37. Died defending those who could not defend themselves. Below her name was Ari Lees, age 25. Gave her life so others might live. Ambassador Thelris approached the podium. His voice carried across the silent crowd. 6 months ago, the Krell came to our worlds. We thought we would die. We sent messages across the galaxy begging for help. Most species ignored us. Some offered sympathy but no aid. We were alone in our darkest hour. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. Then humanity answered our call. They came from their distant world, knowing nothing about us except that we needed help. They asked nothing in return. They expected no reward. They fought because it was the right thing to do. The crowd listened in absolute silence. We called them Deathworlders, Thelris continued. We were frightened by their capacity for violence. We didn't understand how they could be so comfortable with death. Now we understand. Humans aren't comfortable with death. They're terrified of it. But they face that fear anyway because they believe in something greater than themselves. They believe that when someone asks for help, you answer, even if it costs everything. Thelris looked at the memorial wall. These names represent more than just soldiers. They represent the best of what any species can be: brave, selfless, willing to sacrifice for strangers. The Vellani Republic owes humanity a debt we can never repay. All we can offer is our friendship and our promise that we will never forget what you did for us. General Taeyang was called to speak next. He walked to the podium slowly, his military uniform pressed and perfect. He had spent an hour that morning deciding what to say. Now, standing before two species, the words came naturally. I'm not good at speeches, he began. I'm a soldier. I deal in tactics and strategy, not words. But I'll try. He looked at the human survivors. Every person whose name is on that wall volunteered for this mission. We didn't draft anyone. We didn't force anyone to come. They chose to be here. They chose to risk everything for people they had never met. That's who humans are. When someone needs help, we answer the call. He turned to the Vellani crowd. You called us Deathworlders, and you weren't wrong. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. We survived by learning to fight, by learning to be tough, by learning to never give up, no matter how bad things got. Those lessons made us dangerous, but they also made us who we are. Taeyang's voice grew stronger. We didn't come here to conquer. We didn't come here to dominate. We came here to help. Because that's what Earth taught us. That survival means more than just staying alive. It means protecting those who can't protect themselves. It means standing up to monsters even when you're terrified. It means being willing to sacrifice everything for people you care about. He paused, looking at the memorial. These people died doing what humans do best, fighting for something bigger than themselves. I'm proud to have served with them. I'm proud to call them my friends. And I promise you this, their sacrifice will not be forgotten. Not by humanity, not by the Vellani, and not by anyone in this galaxy who values freedom. The ceremony ended with silence. No applause, no cheers. Just quiet respect for the fallen. As the crowd dispersed, Vellani approached the humans individually. They didn't speak. They just touched hands or arms, the Vellani way of showing respect and gratitude. Carolyn, the Vellani counselor, found medic Sora Han in the crowd. I wanted to thank you personally, she said. You saved many Vellani lives during the ground battles. You treated our people as if they were your own. Of course I did, Sora replied. That's what medics do. We don't see sides. We just see people who need help. I misjudged humanity, Carolyn admitted. I thought you were monsters. Now I understand. You're not monsters. You're guardians. Over the next month, the Vellani High Council met with human representatives. They offered Earth full membership in the Vellani Republic. They proposed a mutual defense treaty. They wanted to build a lasting friendship between their species. General Taeyang attended the signing ceremony. The agreement was simple. Earth would help defend Vellani space. The Vellani would share their advanced technology. Both species would work together to prevent future threats. This is a new beginning, Ambassador Thelris said during the ceremony. A partnership between warriors and peacemakers. Together, we are stronger than either of us alone. But the galaxy was watching. News of humanity's intervention spread fast. Some species were impressed. Others were frightened. A species from a death world had just demonstrated incredible military capability. That made humans either valuable allies or dangerous enemies. Delegations from other civilizations began arriving at Earth. Some offered trade agreements. Others proposed alliances. A few sent threatening messages, warning humanity not to interfere in their affairs. Lieutenant Jiho Kwan, now promoted to commander, found himself training the first group of Volani pilots in human combat tactics. His students were hesitant at first, uncomfortable with the aggressive flying style humans preferred. "You're thinking too carefully," Jiho told them during a training exercise. "Combat is chaos. You can't plan for everything. You have to trust your instincts and react. Watch." He demonstrated a high-speed attack run, pulling maneuvers that made his students gasp in their cockpits. He dodged simulated enemy fire, returned devastating counterattacks, and completed the objective in half the expected time. "That's impossible," one Volani student said. "The G-forces alone should have made you pass out." "Humans are built tough," Jiho replied with a grin. "That's the Deathworld advantage. We can take punishment that would kill most species, but technique matters too. I'll teach you what I can. You might not be able to fly like a human, but you can learn to think like one." Back on Earth, humans watched the news with pride and concern. They had proven themselves as warriors and heroes, but now the galaxy knew about them. Some people worried this would make Earth a target. Others argued that humanity needed to be ready for whatever came next. A human journalist asked General Taiyang during an interview, "Do you regret answering the Volani call? Over 2,000 humans died. Was it worth it?" Taiyang considered the question carefully. "Regret? No. Those people chose to be there. They knew the risks. They went anyway because it was the right thing to do. We saved billions of lives. We stopped the Krell from consuming an entire civilization. Yes, it cost us, but some things are worth the price. What do you say to those who think humanity should have stayed out of it?" "I'd say they're wrong," Taeyang replied bluntly. "The Volani asked for help. We had the ability to help. Saying no would have been the easy choice. But easy isn't always right. Humanity spent thousands of years learning that lesson the hard way. Now we're trying to be better. To be the kind of species that answers when someone calls for help." "And what about other threats in the galaxy? Will humanity keep answering these calls?" Taoyang smiled. "The Volani learned something about humans. We're loyal to our friends. We don't abandon people who trust us. If someone needs help and we can provide it, then yes, we'll answer the call. Because that's who we are. We're Deathworlders. We survived hell. And now we use that strength to protect others." The interview went viral across both human and Volani networks. Other species watched and took note. Humanity had declared its position in the galaxy. They would not be conquerors, but neither would they be pushovers. They would extend friendship to those who wanted it and defend those who needed it. Years later, a new generation of Volani children learned about the Krell War in their schools. They learned about the dark days when extinction seemed certain, and they learned about the humans who came from a death world to save them. The memorial on the Volani homeworld became a pilgrimage site. Species from across the galaxy came to see it, to read the names, to understand what it meant when a species decided that helping strangers was more important than staying safe. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Deathworlders were dangerous, yes. But they were also capable of incredible compassion. They fought monsters. They answered calls for help. They died for strangers. And if you ever needed help, if you ever faced impossible odds, there was one species you could count on. The humans would answer.